Okay.
We should actually get some music instead of me going 5, 4.
We could definitely do an
3.
intro song.
Hey, if you have any 2-1, if you have any good songs, intro songs, let us know. Hey,
what's going on?
should we give you 5?
No. How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Old School, New School podcast. Full disclosure, last episode I did not try to give him a fist bump. I was actually adjusting my hand because like the cord was around, so I did this, and it looked like for a half second I tried to give him a fist bump in like the first 8 seconds. I didn't. We just tried there, and we still managed to miss.
And somebody commented on it.
Yeah,
so
somebody
if you look
noticed.
in the comments, you'll see that.
Yeah.
But we'll figure that out.
We'll do that eventually.
Episode 8.
This is episode 8.
Congratulations.
Well,
I didn't think we could last this out.
I know,
That's
right?
like 2 months.
It's been about that, yeah. I hear that if you actually get past one episode, you're in like the 50. You know, you're more than 50% of all the podcasts, and if you do, I believe it's 16 episodes, you're in the top 99th percentile of all podcasts.
16
episodes, because if you don't, most episodes don't get past 16 episodes, apparently.
We might only make it to 15 because we're not that smart. We might run out of
We'll see where it goes.
After today, we might run out of information.
We'll have no more ideas.
I was at the speech class, not a speech class. What's it called?
As the communicator course.
There's a communicator course at our
Same
church.
thing, really.
And they do these little exercises, and they're saying, at your table, come up with a story like a movie, and everybody says a line, and you go around. Oh,
Yes.
And people, I don't know what we should talk about. I go, just give me a subject. I have something to say about everything. I can make it up faster than anything. So, anyway, so
that's who we are.
How was your week?
It was good. Yeah. So, I mean, just kind of.
Your adjustment from the mission trip.
Oh, my gosh, dude. Regaining my equilibrium after that trip took about a week.
What do they say? Every time zone you pass, it takes a day to recover?
Well, I guess it's not me with the time zones because, me being young and spry, it was about a day of, exhaustion. And then just once you put up with being awake for 48 hours and then sleeping like a dead man for 10 hours, I was pretty much back. But it was just I was just dizzy and nauseous, and I got sick when I came back. It was just so annoying.
So were you sick on the podcast last
No,
week?
I was better by then, but
Okay.
it was like the first 3 days of just like my head spinning, my world was moving.
And you had to go to work, right? And
I had to call off my first day.
Oh, wow.
And then the second day back, I just took some like Tamiflu and went, here we go. And then just did it anyways.
Yeah, muscle through it.
That's right. Probably got some people sick.
I flew from Uganda one time, and I thought, this has got to be the most exhausting trip I've ever been on in my entire life.
100%. Did you fly with like Ethiopian Air or something?
I want to say it's Lufthansa or something like that.
Lufthansa?
But it was
Something.
That's
what I flew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was cool. So anyway, so I just came back from California and visited my son. He's a pastor in a Vineyard Church. I don't know if you've ever heard of Vineyard Santa Monica. So shout out to them. It's called Pack City. If you want to know anything about that, look them up. They're really trying to restart still after COVID.
What?
Nothing like here.
Oh my goodness. That's true.
But
That's
we
true.
visited one of their sister churches in Los Angeles.
Nice.
And here, I'm going to tell you, fake news. Fake news.
What?
Because I went there. I was been watching the news the last couple months, and I was looking for homeless people everywhere.
Oh, really?
They weren't anywhere. I couldn't find any.
Did you go to Skid Row?
I did not go there.
Okay,
I mean, I'm sure they were going to be there, but the way it seems like the world's talking like there's homeless people in California
Everywhere.
on every corner.
Right.
And that's not true.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, I was really happy.
Nice.
Because we were walking my granddaughter to school. So, and I went and watched it. I didn't play soccer. I watched like 10-year-olds play soccer. Thank you, Jesus, that I don't have to do that. That's
no.
Can you? Were you a soccer player?
I did like the indoor soccer summer camp when I was like 8, and that was about as good as it got. I'm not the biggest stamina guy. I go for like short bursts of strength.
Yeah.
But not long distance running.
You're a power lifter then?
Sure. Yeah. I don't. Running is not my forte. I'll just say that. So soccer, no.
And they stop, and then there's these little tiny girls that like fly across, and then there's they're all different sizes. It was kind of fun. It was the first time we ever saw her play soccer, so
nice.
it was a cool trip.
You're a good grandpa.
Yeah. I flew 2,000 miles to go watch a soccer game.
Well, I'm sure you were there for other reasons too, but soccer as well.
No. That was the only reason to go see my granddaughter.
Okay,
well,
sure.
my son too.
Well, he's sort of important.
In theory,
Right.
We still have a relationship.
Well, that's good.
Yeah,
it's good that you still have a relationship.
Speaking of which, are you moving out of your house yet?
I might be. Way to bring that up, Chris.
Before we started, we were like, "Hey, I'm going to be moving into my own place." Right?
Yeah, probably.
You and another guy.
Me and a buddy of mine, Alden Light, the bro, the guy, the man himself. It's going to be the two of us. We're very, very close, and we're very similar, so it'll work out. There's not going to be too much butting of heads.
And you're going to do your decorating? Who's doing your decorating?
He's an interior designer, so
oh, my gosh.
It's funny because, like, I'm going to be moving in with him, and he's, like, asking me permission for, he's like, do you think this would work? And just so you know, we're going to be doing that. I'm like, hey, this is I'm just here for the ride.
Should we do a live broadcast from your new place? And
we might do
pictures?
An episode in there. we could probably set up a nice spot in the living room or something.
And we'll show pictures of of your decorating.
House tour. And then everybody could come to my house.
When I was 21, I could care less. It was called Early Attic. we decorated an early attic.
Yep.
So anyway, last week we kind of were wrapping up about mission trips and stuff like that. And you were saying some of the things that happened to you on your trip.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it was really, it was so
now that
impactful.
you have a clearer mind.
Now that I've processed things fully, one of my biggest takeaways, I mean, really was, what I talked about before was like the historical context of everything and just the emotional weight of all of the history there and the people. I think for me personally, I got a ton of like relationship advice. I got because I need that. And then
we know the guy you do the podcast with, and we're going to help you with some better relationships.
You need some actual advice.
Yes.
That was a huge conversation topic. A lot of interacting with, people who are very different. That was something that I learned because, obviously in the Eastern world, they're very, very different. There was this one sign that we were seeing everywhere. It was strange. It was on the back of street signs. So, there's like, say the speed limit. And then on the back side of that, there were everywhere. There was a picture. It was this yellow sticker. It was like about the size of a piece of paper. And there was a picture of this Orthodox Jewish guy with, the hat, the long gray beard. And he was doing this with his hand. He was like waving. I don't know. And he had a book in front of him.
Like the Queen?
Yes, like the Queen wave, exactly. And then there was text on the bottom. And, obviously it's Hebrew. We can't read it. The whole time we're wondering what the heck it means. So finally we're asking people on the street on the very last day. We're like, what does this sign say? And people are like, oh, it says he is king of the Jews. And we're like, what do you mean? We asked another guy. He said the exact same thing. Yeah, he's king of the Jews. We're like wondering what the heck is this talking about? So you use Google Translate. We put it up to the sign. And the text says, long live the Messiah. And it's like, oh, because, the Jewish belief is that they're still waiting for the Messiah.
Okay.
And their idea of the Messiah is very political. For us, the Messiah is Jesus Christ. He is God and man. And it's funny because in the Old Testament, it's hinted at, but a lot of the Jewish people weren't expecting the Messiah to be a divine person. And that really hit me when I learned this in Bible college. They didn't really necessarily want they didn't expect the Messiah to be God in the flesh. They just thought it was going to be some guy with a sword who had a political motivation, to overthrow the Roman Empire or something like that.
Okay.
And it's still very much like that to this day, and it's really crazy. So their perspective of politics, of religion, is very different from ours. We're a very spiritual, emotional society. It's very much like, hey, how are you doing today? We ask a lot of like, if you're really close with somebody, just like, you doing all right? And that's a very normal.
Okay.
I saw this video of this Jewish man and he wasn't like a Christian. He was just I think he was a journalist, and he was talking to rabbis, and he would ask them like, hey, how is your relationship with God? He would ask these rabbis, how's your relationship with God? And a lot of the rabbis were just kind of puzzled by that. They were like, what do you mean? Because for them, the relationship with God is very collectivist. It's national. This is the nation of Israel and God. For us, it's the individual and God. It's very personal. Yeah. And for them, it's like, well, I represent my people to God, and then I teach about God. And a lot of the rabbis left that conversation a little like, I'd never thought of it like that. There is a personal aspect. So for them, it was not as easy to communicate with them like, hey, this is our belief. What do you think of this? Because they're like, God is, it's almost like they look at God as sort of the leader of their people, of their nation, as like a group leader, as not like a role model. It's hard to describe with my Western words.
Yes.
But you know what I'm saying?
Well, and we're so used to going in and saying, I have a relationship with God. I have a relationship with Jesus. When I pray, I believe I'm praying to God, the Father. I believe that He's called us into a relationship with Him. So, yeah, I've shared before, I write God a letter in the morning. I try to write it every morning, but this last week it didn't happen. But happened this morning.
Nice.
But my first thing is like, thank you for letting me have a great, and thank you for meeting me here this morning, for me to be able to just have a conversation with you and ask you for help during the day. Yeah. So we live in a world that, okay, that sounds normal.
Right.
So anything outside, and that's the great thing about mission trips, to get back to the subject, is that you go see things that are like not normal for the Western civilization. It's just what?
Yeah.
You mean what? Yeah. What?
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
What do you mean things are like this?
Yeah.
I like to wash my hands with water that I can also drink. What do you mean you can't drink the water here?
Right. It's all about when I went to the trip in Uganda years ago, and we visited all these orphanages. One of the hardest things to watch was the children going down to the well, which was maybe a quarter mile from their homes. Yeah. And carrying waters in like gasoline cans and bringing it back, and you're thinking, no, this just must be for laundry. Right. No, it's their water, and so it's a. You just move into a different paradigm. Is that the right? Is that 100%? Is that the right word?
Yeah.
And you don't have a file for it.
Yes.
And so it's a whole different animal.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about some of the experiences you've had on your mission trips, because you've had quite a bit.
I've
more
had
than
a
me.
few. One in particular stands out. I was a friend of mine owned a adoption agency, and not adoption, foster care business. Okay. It was a private foster care, and we were trying to expand. I was on his board, and they were expanding it to adoptions, international adoptions. Okay. And at the time, in Uganda, there were orphanages, which we don't call them that here. I don't know what we call them here. I don't think you're allowed to say orphans.
You can say orphan.
You can?
Orphanages?
I think it's like
what else would it be?
Like not homeless. But there are words. Text us to them. But there are the politically correct words.
Yeah, email them to us.
Yeah, you don't say orphans anymore. You say,
really?
There's a word, doggone.
Unhoused children.
Yeah, something like that. So anyway, I mentioned a little bit the other day, but so we're going into all these orphanages, and there's hundreds of kids. There's like 20 different buildings where they house people. Yep. And so as I was there, I was just moved. I mean, it was moving to see these kids all running, and they're laughing, smiling. And when we came in, they're all like being really nice to us. I mean, it just was something different than I've ever experienced in my life.
Sure.
And so I went back to my hostel. They call them a hostel.
Yep.
And I was just laying there. We had the kind of afternoon off, and I couldn't deal with all this pain and suffering of these kids that were left on the side of the road.
Yeah.
They have no one. Their parents are dead, and so they got really hit hard. Uganda with this.
Gosh,
And so I was laying on my bed. I got a yellow pad or a white pad out and just started writing. I'm like, God, what do you want? What do you want from me? Why am I here?
Right.
Why did you let me do this?
Come on, Lord, why?
Why did you let me do this? And I felt that because you know what, you're the kind of guy. This is going to sound probably arrogant.
Okay.
Is that okay if I sound arrogant?
Go ahead.
People have already said that.
We'll see where it goes. Just
Say you have a unique personality, Chris.
Yes.
That's not arrogant.
That's not.
Yeah, it's true.
It's very humble.
That's
true. I do have a very unique personality.
I'm very unique. Well, I think everybody's unique, so you're not that unique. But
just
anyway.
like everybody
else. So I went back to the hotel, and I'm laying there, and I said, okay, I'm just going to spend some time. And I'm just going to write what I'm thinking because I want to tell people about this. I want people to know that this is going on.
Yeah.
And so I wrote down these things, and it's like what I felt like God was telling me to write down. And so the first one was total surrender. And so if you want to be a man of God, I've got a different word. Well, okay, I'll jump ahead and say.
Please, go ahead.
It ended up, I called this thing being a baller for Jesus.
Come on.
Baller
for
Jesus.
Jesus.
I mean, you see people. Didn't we have a series at church that was baller? It was with your money or something like that.
Last year. Yeah. That was a while ago.
And they called it some kind of baller, but it was hilarious if you ever look it up. Pastor Randy, whoever you had do that was awesome. But anyway, the first step in being a baller for Jesus, to doing things that nobody else does, doing things that the norm doesn't do.
Right.
And that's what I've always done. I've always kind of marched to a drum of beat of a different drummer.
Something like that.
Yeah. I've always walked
even
to
in
the
using that
beat
expression
of a different drummer.
Yeah.
Is that old fashioned?
No, it is,
old
but
school?
it's good.
Okay.
It's old school, yes.
So the first one is total surrender. If you're not totally surrendered to God,
yes.
As it says in Genesis 12:1, that we have to give our fears and our anxieties to God. But we have to surrender to Him and say, okay, God, what do you want?
Yeah.
And He's not asking for anything really big. He just wants you to be like, what do you want?
Yeah.
So it's total surrender. So that was the first one. Step 2 was complete obedience. You can't do anything unless you're obedient. And too many people will say, well, God, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do with my life? What should I do now that I'm retired? What should I do now that I'm out of college? It never changes.
Yes.
Ever.
Always.
And so, first of all, God says, well, do what I already told you to do. Well, that was kind of stupid.
Yeah. Duh.
Like in your case.
Yes.
You feel like God's saying, get a job and then get your own place. And so once you do that, then you get the next step.
Yes.
Because it's like, well, be obedient to the first thing. So complete obedience, and sometimes that's going to Israel, sometimes that's going to college, sometimes that's going to apologize to your kids for being the jerk as a dad, which is that what I did. But I've had to apologize to them. The third one was being holy and humble.
Holy and humble.
Holy and humble. And for a baller in their pursuit to holiness, they embrace humility.
Come on.
Mirroring Christ's example of humility and servanthood. That's Philippians 2:5-8. And being holy and humble means treating others with kindness and respect and putting others' needs above your own. And that's like, we don't really hear about that.
True.
Where it says, Jesus says, you want to be the greatest? I mean, because, we want to be great.
Come on. I want to be on the
I want to
top.
be great. I mean, everybody wants to be great.
Sure.
Oh, wait a minute. Be a servant of all.
Uh-huh.
And that's like so countercultural.
Yes. You have to be below everybody to be the best. What do you mean?
Yeah. That's not American.
No, very much not. That's a very good point.
Certainly would be communism.
Commie.
You commie. You're telling me you want me to be a servant of all? Yeah, that's what God's saying.
Yeah.
Total dependency. Here's the thing. I've tried to do a lot of things in my life, and I think there's a place where you have to be dependent on God. You have to say, well, I don't think there's a, you do. You need to be saying, you got to go, God, I don't know how to do this. It's like this podcast.
Yeah. That is exactly what this
seriously, tell them how much experience do we have at this?
Well, you have more experience than I do. Yeah. You had a podcast prior to this that,
Some other guy ran it. I just showed up and,
you're just another voice in a mic.
I was just another talking head.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like everybody's always wanted to have a podcast. Yeah. And we were the same. We were just like, it would be nice to have. And then we're like, well, what if we actually did it instead of just window shopping?
And then we okay, do you believe, and I think I asked you, do you believe that God's asking you to do this? Or God's okay with you doing this? Mm-hmm. I know it sounds like, it could be too spiritual for some people, but that's just what we do.
Yes.
It's true. I said to him, do you think that God is okay with you doing it? And you're like, yeah.
Yeah. Not only is God okay with it, I am.
And
very okay with it.
And so, but we didn't know how to do it. And I think that's where you're like, okay, well, what should we do? You need to buy a mic and a recording machine.
Yeah, well, I thought it was just like you have two microphones, you plug them into a computer. Now there's a soundboard behind us that I had to figure out.
Yeah, and this is not on tape. This is electronic.
Yeah,
we've moved into the.
That's second nature for me.
It's not on cassette. Okay, we do not have cassette or even CD, which is old fashioned.
Yeah, well, I grew up when cassettes and VHSs were just on the way out, and it was moving to DVDs and CDs and everything was on the disc. And then now I've just essentially grown up with this. So yeah, obviously we're not using a tape recorder and a tape camera to record this.
So total dependency is we lean on God in all aspects of our lives, acknowledging that He is the source of our strength and our guidance. And I do that. I mean, not all the time. I mean, there's days that I'm like, I'm doing this. Oh, shoot, I did that. Way. I did that. Now I got a parking ticket.
Yeah.
I'll park where I wanted to. Yeah, go ahead.
I'll park in the handicap spot.
There was a guy in the Navy one time. He said, Chris, you can do whatever you want. You have the right to do whatever you want. You just have to be willing to pay for the consequences.
Ooh.
And I'm like, that kind of makes sense.
That's a good point.
I bought a lot of Jeeps when I was in the Navy. Number 5 is a story of goodness. And we share our own faith journey and the ways God has worked in our lives, spreading the message of His goodness. And the reason I say that is people are so afraid to say what God has done.
Yeah.
Like I could say, I've been married for 44 years. Mm-hmm. That is like a gift from God. Because I'm kind of a jerk. Okay. Yeah. I had no real instructions on how to be married. I mean, my parents, died married, but their relationship is not what I wanted. Okay.
Yeah.
And so, but when you are, there's a place where we need to talk about it. Sure. Or just even like you, where you say, hey, God got me through this thing. Mm-hmm. This is what happened to me. This is another thing that happened to me. Yeah. This is an experience that I have that when I was younger, God got me through this mess of a life. And so having a story of goodness, people love good stories.
A testimony.
They want to be happy for you. Most people want to be happy for you.
Yeah, they don't want a pity party.
And the people that don't want to be happy for them, out.
Get them out.
Get them out.
Not worth it, dude.
No negativity.
Amen to that.
Be a bright light is the next one. Just as a single candle can dispel darkness, our actions and love can bring light to the lives of those in need.
Ooh.
And there's something about going on a trip, especially into third world countries, where people are like, okay, what's this all about? Mm-hmm. What's this tall redhead guy doing here?
Oh, I'm sure I stand out like a sore thumb.
What's this 20? What are these 20 people coming to help me are carrying water for me. No adult carries water from the well, and you're like feeling so guilty that you're like, I mean, it's horrible. It's a horrible feeling. You're like, okay, this is wrong. We'd go into those markets and to buy stuff, and they're like, don't pay the asking price. Don't have, barter with them because you'll be insulted. And I'm like, okay, they want $3 for this blanket that I would pay $40 for in Cleveland, Ohio, or Sarasota, Florida. Here's $50 because I feel so guilty because I got a wad full of money bringing home things, and you're trying to buy food.
Yeah. It feels 100%. You feel especially if they're like, don't take the asking price, barter with them. But that's all they make is $3 per blanket. With our way of life, you go to Target and you pay $50 for the same thing.
I paid $3 for a cup of coffee.
Wow. Yeah. Right? You don't get that here anymore, which is weird to think about. That a cup of coffee can't be $3 anymore. A good cup of, a good cup of coffee. Right.
Yeah. You can,
for somebody like you
I can go to 7-Eleven and get one for $20.
Well, you can, but it's not going to be anything comparable to what you had.
So being a light was number 6, and then number 7 was loving well. And we show love through our actions, reaching out to those in need and offering a listening ear to friends in difficult times. And so this is what I wrote for today. Is in a world that often seems dark and uncertain, being a baller for Jesus means living a life that radiates love, hope, and faith. It's about surrendering to God's will, obeying his commands, and reflecting his holiness and humility. It's recognizing our dependency on him, sharing stories of his goodness, being a shining light, and loving others wholeheartedly.
That's good.
Think about when I got back from that, I wanted to raise money. And I could just give out the top, but I wanted to do something, so I started a coffee roasting business.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah.
Of course you did.
Of course I did.
Why wouldn't you, right?
I don't know how to do a podcast. I certainly don't know how to roast coffee.
We'll figure it out on the way.
And I happened to marry a gal that's she listens to what you say, and then like on holidays and things like that, she makes them special.
Ooh.
So on my birthday the next year, she made a little thing with Baller for Jesus.
Oh my gosh!
And put it out for me, which is really cool. I mean, it's like
wow,
you listened to me.
That's very nice.
And then she made me a coffee cup, and which has Baller for Jesus coffee cup, a life of total surrender, complete obedience, holy and humble, totally dependent, a story of goodness, be a bright light, above reproach, and loves well. And on the back, she has me with my coffee roasting machine.
Oh wow.
And so,
wow, that's a cool machine.
And so what I did is I started roasting coffee and selling it. I called it Greater Bean, and it was making money, and all the profits. It was a for-profit company, and all the profits that I made, I gave to orphans around the world. Wow. Until I started the garage on fire.
Oh, really? Yeah. You're like, that's a sign from God.
I started the garage on fire, and the machine got sent away, and I believe that God had me give it to this young pastor couple that they use it to raise money and they help refugees in the Cleveland area.
Oh, so it's still getting
it's being used. Yeah,
very cool.
They help refugees learn a skill so that they can make coffee.
Wow,
so going on a mission trip. So I came back from that. First, I wrote it down. Then I moved it into my soul.
Right.
And now I've made it into. Thanks you, my wife. It sits on my desk, and that's what I believe that this is who I am.
Yeah.
And it happened because the guy said, "Hey, you want to go to Uganda and we'll check out? We'll start an orphanage." And I mean, he was doing all the work. I was just driving around. I was
also there.
I was carrying his bag.
That's how I feel when I'm moving in with the other guy, or here. It's just I'm also here.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of along for the ride, see where it goes.
But it's kind of amazing when you go back to that obedience part. When you're obedient to say, "Okay, I'm going to go. I don't like it.
Right.
It's going to be scary.
Yes.
I'm going to have to get shots."
Oh, right. Yeah.
And here's the thing. When you go to Africa, you can't walk home. It's like if you went to South America, at least you could walk home.
Right.
It might take you a couple years.
It'd be a hot minute. You'd have to hop the Panama Canal too, but
How wide is that? They don't have. They got to have a bridge going across.
A quarter of a mile. You might not be able to walk back.
Is this serious?
Yes.
But you could, in theory.
Well, you could swim.
From Africa? No.
Well, no. I mean, across the Panama Canal. You'd
Yes,
still encounter
yeah.
some obstacles, but you can make it. Yeah.
But you can make it.
Yeah.
But if you're
From
in Africa,
no. You could walk north, and then you'd be in Europe, but then
you'd have to walk over the Antarctic. But I don't think you.
Well,
the Antarctic, is that the one in the south or the north?
That's south, but
okay. What's the top one? What's the north?
The North Pole. You know, the one
where
Santa Claus is, Chris. Don't you know this? Come on.
But those are actual thoughts that I had. I'm like,
yeah, I'm stuck.
If I was here in the continent of America, the American continent, North America or South America, I could at least walk home.
Oh boy!
Once you go overseas, you got to have a boat.
You got to have a way back. You can't just get a one-way ticket.
Yeah, but I did it, and when I did it, it was life changing.
Yeah, that's good.
And my kids, it was really funny. So I'll tell one more story. What time
we got? Time.
Tell one more story. So one of my sons was in college or just out of college, and he was sitting there, and my daughter. I think it was at my daughter's wedding, and we had fought. This was my number 2 guy.
Oh, sure,
Matt, if you're listening.
Yeah.
And he would push on me, and he just wasn't walking with the Lord at the time. He just was doing his thing at Kent State University.
Ooh.
And so he's sitting on the back porch, and he's talking to everybody. He's like, my dad did this, my dad did that. I'm like, when did you ever brag on me? And later in the evening, he goes, I just want to tell you, I've never been more proud to be your son than since you've been doing this coffee thing. He goes, I tell everyone. He goes,
wow.
My dad started roasted coffee. He gives money to the orphans. He goes, I've never been more proud of being your son than right now. And I'm like, well, shit, I would have done it.
Why didn't you say something earlier?
10 years
Come
ago.
on, kid.
10 years ago. But when we become the person that God wants us to be,
yes,
when we believe that the person that God's calling us to be, all of a sudden the people around us end up having a better attitude.
Yes.
What is with that?
Naturally, people will start to pick up on things. I mean, even in listening to this podcast, it's like when you're around good company. I mean, it's all over in Proverbs. If you're around good company, you will become wiser. You will become more confident. You will become more of the man that you're supposed to be, or the woman, of course, to our female audience. Right. It's totally, definitely listening.
Sorry.
Hey. But that's just...
Will's single. He's 21.
Well, hey, 22. Get it right.
He's going to have his own pad here next month.
We'll see where this goes. Anyway.
Go ahead.
But it is very much true, and especially I've been thinking about it a lot recently that I'm going to be moving in with a buddy of mine, is it's like I love being around people. I'm super extroverted. I love going to the gym when there's more people,
right?
Just because I love the movement. Yeah. I love the energy. There's people.
You'd love Los Angeles. There's people everywhere.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah.
Everywhere.
But it's like I do need my time to, just a little bit.
Because you're an only child.
100%. That is exactly the reason.
Yeah,
that's
total.
Yep.
My wife's the same way. Yeah.
Yep. She's an only child.
Oh yeah. She loves being with people, and then she loves being at home. Getting her work done, organizing her closet, getting her space.
That's me.
When we first got married, she'd go into her bedroom and talk on the phone. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, aren't we married? Aren't we one? She's like, well, I'm talking on the phone. I got a little bit of privacy. And I'm like, no,
you're with me.
You're talking about me,
aren't you?
You know you're talking about me.
I knew it. How dare you betray me behind my back?
One time, I mean, I was like a hot mess when we first got married. And she was doing it, and I kept on saying, quit going into the room. I mean, I feel like you're leaving me alone. You don't want me to hear what you're talking about. Because I was so insecure. Yes. So I walked into the bedroom, opened up the door, a little tiny ranch, and I had my hand behind my back. I pull out this knife. Yeah, I swear to God. She's like,
what?
I grabbed the phone cord, and I cut it, and I said,
what?
I told you that insults me. Yeah,
Chris,
I know.
Chris, what?
Don't do this at home.
No.
Don't do this at home. But I was so insecure in all these things. And so but she quit talking.
That made her stop. That'll teach her.
Those are many things that I've repented of. But,
I had no idea.
But when you're young person, and I don't know how. I didn't have any guidelines on how to behave.
Yes.
And she was an only child, so she knew her world.
Yeah.
I had 8 brothers and sisters of
Yep.
me.
Yep.
8 of me sitting in a room. Could you imagine
boy.
that?
No.
And
That
so
would be
you went
rough.
and cut telephone cords.
That was how you got your way. Is you fought. Barbarian.
Watch this. I'll get you off the phone.
That's crazy that you did that.
But God has changed me.
100%.
Now I bought her a cell phone. I'm such a nice guy.
I'm such a nice guy. Oh, see, you're still the exact same guy, Chris. No, but this is what I was really hoping for, is that we could just have like good spiritual conversations. Because the other day, I don't know if you listened to it, I just had come back from, it was open mic night at McCurdy's on Thursday. And so I went into the park at Marina Jack's. I was just there by myself. Sometimes I like to just go there and like set up my hammock or sit there and listen to a sermon or journal. And so I was there. It was super late. And I was just listening to a sermon. And I think it was Pastor David. It was this new series that we're currently in about the traits of a holy person, essentially. And I was listening, and David, I think it was David, he had said, when you listen to a sermon, you get a little nugget. When you listen to a podcast, you get a little nugget. And those are just nuggets. But when you do life experience, then you get so much more. And it made me think about this podcast. And I was like, oh, okay. So this guy thinks that you only get nuggets of little experience from podcasts. I'm like,
okay.
We'll show him. No,
yeah,
but so
jerk.
Yeah. So I was thinking about the podcast here and how we can, impact and give life change to other people through this. I want it to be more than just nuggets, right? So you have this Baller for Jesus thing that you printed out and shared with us. That's awesome.
Some people hate the name.
Well, then they're just not ballers for Jesus.
They just don't get it.
I don't get it.
You don't get it.
This is what I want this to be, is to have a bunch of ballers for Jesus listening to the podcast.
Right.
And this could be, maybe it's not like a weekly thing. It's like, oh, it's Saturday, time to turn on the podcast.
Right.
But like,
and you don't have to be like an extrovert like Will and I.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we'll never run out of words.
100%.
But
Keep
being
going.
a baller for Jesus is like being the man that God created, or woman that God created you to be. Mm-hmm. And some people are like amazing in sports, and they have a great testimony. You have that Brielle from, she was like a baseball player. And softball. And she was just amazing. And you knew where she stood.
Yeah.
She didn't care what anybody else had. She goes, this is who I am.
Yep.
Bing, bang.
Yes.
And which is why Joyce married me, because she's like, you walk to the beat of a different drum.
You wear it like a medal on your chest.
And she's like, and I kind of like the beat that you're playing.
Hey.
And so it's when we try not to be, and that's speech class that I've been doing. Mm-hmm. Every time you turn around, they're like, if you're not authentic, it's going nowhere, right?
Right. Yeah. 100%. This is why the two of us click so well, is because we both know what authentic looks like in the other. So we just do this, and it's like, oh yeah, we're rattling back and forth, and it's just how it is. I mean, I can just be my full self here, and you can too.
Right. And so we want people that are like, okay, wait a minute, it's okay to be a Christian and still be yourself.
Yeah.
You don't have to be it. The only thing you need to know is you need to have Jesus as your Savior. Okay.
Yeah, easy enough.
That's the rule.
That is the one rule.
Love God, love people. Okay?
And then if you want to add some extras to it, you've got those as well. You got the Baller for Jesus stuff.
For Jesus. So I think you think that covers it tonight?
I think so. I think that we did a good job.
I'm really pleased with us. I used to say to Joyce, I said,
pleased with us.
One of the things I like the most about myself is that I am blah, 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 fill in the blank.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I like about me most.
Dude, I have this running bit with my buddies where I'm just like, oh, I am a 10. Like, I am 100%, I'm a 10 out of 10. And I'm just like this total egomaniac, and they're like, Will, what are you talking about? I'm like, I know, I'm like the best. And I'm just perfect. Yeah. And then they're all like, Will, you're not going to be able to get any girls if you. And I'm like, no, I don't. I am and they're like, Will, you need to shut up. I'm like, and I just dig my heels and I just go even further. I'm like, I don't need to hear it from you. And I just become this egomaniacal.
That's what you get to do when you're 21.
Yeah, 22.
And 66.
And yeah, just keep doing it.
Just keep doing it.
That's right.
Just be yourself. Be yourself.
Be unapologetically you.
The person that God created you to
Yes.
be. And it's all going to work out.
Yes. Obviously, I'm not a 10. I'm not an egomaniac. That was a joke. But like,
let's clarify that. I am a 9.725.
Yeah, I'm still up there, but I'm not perfect, you know. It's all for the giggles. It's all for the memes.
Yes.
It's not.
Yes.
Just be you. Unapologetically you.
All right. God bless you, man. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.